Hello again, and welcome back to Legally Cited. This is BGFH, and I am back for another hardware review. Wasn't sure if I was actually going to be able to get to do this hardware review because Nintendo, in its typical fashion, has made yet another product very limited in supply and hard to get. Maybe not quite as hard, some people say, as the NES Classic, but we are looking at here the Super Nintendo Classic, or the SNES Mini, Super Nintendo Mini. I finally got my hands on one of these things. They came out in, like, what was it, September? Finally got mine just like a couple days before Thanksgiving. And I actually had to go to eBay, and I paid a little bit more than retail, but not too much. And basically it would be like a little bit over, like if you were paying for shipping, you know, you don't get a benefit like Amazon Prime or something. So it really wasn't that bad of a deal. I had a little bit of trouble with UPS, but that is a whole other story. Nevertheless, we are here to look at this little guy, the Super Nintendo Mini, or the Super Nintendo Classic. Look at here, we got it on the screen. It's just doing a little playthrough. We got some Donkey Kong Country going on there on my TV. I have the sound way down there for you. But there you go, some Donkey Kong Country. There you go. So I have the box here. This is the box for it. Now the difference between this is and the NES Classic is that, look at this, you got two controllers instead of one, and the cords are actually a little bit longer, so it's actually a little bit nicer in that regard. It looks just like your Super Nintendo. You got the power on the left, the reset button on the right there, and this one, it comes with like a little guard for the controllers. You can see there, it's a little guard, and it has 21 classic games in there. You see on the front there, you've got some pretty iconic stuff. You got Super Mario World, you've got Donkey Kong Country, and I can't believe how much, like, just imagine, like, for $80 right now you can get so many classic games. You see all of the list of games there on the left. We're going to go through them on the TV here in the interface here, but I mean, just look at all this. I mean, if you were looking at buying all this content back in the day, you'd be paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get all this classic games. And now it's like in this handheld form. You plug in one HDMI cable, you plug in one either USB, or it comes with a power brick. You can plug it into the wall, and there you go. Boom, you've got 21 classic NES game or SNES games, including one that has never been officially released. Star Fox 2. So, here is the other controller. Just to show you, I mean, they look exactly like the Super Nintendo controllers. As far as I can tell, they pretty much feel like the Super Nintendo controllers. You know, the rubber on the start and select buttons, the D-pad, you got your 4 face buttons, your L and R buttons there, good to go. So yeah, I mean, and you have 2 controllers this time. Huzzah! So, we'll put this down, and we will look at the interface. So, okay. Okay, so we get a little F-Zero footage here. Again, another very classic racing game. I remember being pretty wowed at this when it came out with their Mode 7 graphics. But what we're going to do now is I am going to hit start here. We're going to go back to our, you know what, I'll leave voiceover on, I guess. Shut up, voiceover. But the interface should look very familiar if you have looked at the classic, the NES Classic. So let's just start up here. We have, I last left off on Super Punch-Out. Let's just, but let's go all the way back to the beginning. We have Contra 3, the Alien Wars. We'll just go through and I'll let you know what all the titles are here. Donkey Kong Country, Now, interestingly, they chose the first one. I know a lot of people like 2 the best, but Earthbound, you got this huge, really popular RPG role-playing game, which I have never actually played just because I'm not really into the turn-based combat and everything like that. But F-Zero, we saw a little bit of the title screen footage of that. We have Final Fantasy III, or as it is known in other parts of the world, Final Fantasy VI. But that's a whole other story. Again, one of the most highly regarded, a lot of people think Final Fantasy 3/6 is the best of that in that series. Okay, we've got Kirby Superstar, and this is like your 2D platformer with our little pink cream puff looking dude there. Kirby. We have another Kirby game, interestingly enough, Kirby's Dream Course. I have never actually played that. I've played the other one, but I haven't played Dream Course before. We have Mega Man X. I love the Mega Man games, except other than the fact that I suck really bad at them, so they're actually pretty hard. We have Secret of Mana. We have 3. If you're into RPGs, role-playing games, we have 3 just huge ones. I mean, you've probably got like 300 hours of RPG content alone, and I happen to know there's even one more on here. So Secret of Mana, that one's actually a little bit more real-time. I did play this one, haven't beat it, but I remember going back to it on the Game Boy Advance version. But it plays a little bit more like Zelda. You know, it's more real-time combat, but you still have all of your like leveling up and all that kind of stuff. Star Fox, classic game. What I would argue is possibly some of the catchiest, best first level music in any game history, in any game ever. The Corneria theme, it's awesome. It's very catchy. We have Star Fox 2. Now, again, here's a game that was never released officially, but because Nintendo basically had said, well, we have it mostly done, pretty much done, but the N64 was right around the corner, and they didn't want it to really compete with, they really didn't want it to compete with the new graphics and kind of confuse people, so they just shelved it. There have been some unofficial leaks of different versions of it online. I've seen footage of it before, but it's officially out now, the finished version. And in order to unlock it, this is the one game that you actually had to unlock. And to do so, you had to play and beat the first level of Star Fox. Play through Corneria. Even for somebody like me who sucks at flying games, I was able to do it first try, no problem. Star Fox 2, and then we have Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting. I love making fun of this series just because of their naming schemes. You know, I've posted on Twitter, like, I'm going to wait, Street Fighter 5s. Like, if I'm going to bother to get that, I'm going to wait for Ultra Super Hyper Mega Fighter 5 HD Championship Edition Remix Plus. I mean, how many revisions of a game, be it Street Fighter 2, 3, 4, how many revisions are they gonna do, and how many freaking prefixes and suffixes can they add to a game? Nevertheless, classic game, glad it's here. And we have 2 controllers, so it works. Super Castlevania 4, amazing game. I suck at it again, but it's amazing. The music is incredible. It's just the presentation is awesome. Okay, and then we have Super Ghouls and Ghosts. This is one that I will never really play because I've tried Ghosts and Goblins, I've tried Ghouls and Ghosts. These games are stupid hard, and I'm terrible at them. Super Mario Kart, where it all began. I love Mario Kart. I remember playing this back in the day. I never owned it, but I played it at other people's houses or in the dorms and stuff. The one thing I didn't like about it is that even in single player mode, it was split screen, so you had like the map on the bottom. You never got to play it in full screen. That was my one beef with that game. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Again, here's another Square RPG role-playing game. So you've got like 4 huge. I mean, this game, I don't know how many hours this one will take you, but there are some really, really meaty 16-bit RPGs on this system. So, and some of the best. I have played a good. This is one role-playing game that I actually have played a decent amount of. Have never beat it. I kind of got stuck at a boss, but I have played a lot of it. Super Mario World, of course, you can't miss that. Super Nintendo launch title. Super Metroid, another one of the greatest games. When I was a huge fan of the original Metroid, and when I saw the footage and when I got to play for the Metroid, Super Metroid for the first time, it blew my mind. Like, they had that little talking thing at the beginning, and then there's the graphics, the atmosphere, the music. Seeing Ridley right away. I mean, the game is just, oh, it's so good. It's so cool. Super Punch-Out, there's where we left off. Sequel to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and that was on the original NES Classic. So we've got both of those covered there. The Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past. I've already put a little bit of time into this. One of my favorite games of all time. 16-bit. Again, you could call this like an action adventure. I don't know what you would want to call it, but RPG, action adventure. It's amazing, and it still holds up. It's still awesome. And Yoshi's Island, the unofficial, it's official, but they call. I think in the U.S. It was called Super Mario World 2 in the States, but I don't think it was anywhere else. But Yoshi's Island. Again, beautiful game, fun game. The main thing I hated about it is the damn baby Yoshi crying. Wah, wah. If he fell off, baby Mario fell off Yoshi. Just the most obnoxious warning thing ever. But there you go. Now we're back at Contra 3. So again, look at all the games. Just sit back and think about how many. Let me get rid of some. Let me slide over to some titles that don't have faces on them, so VoiceOver shuts up. But I mean, just the amount of games. There's not really a bad one on here. I would probably make a couple of replacements. I mean, I'm not an RPG fan, but I totally respect the fact that, these 16-bit role-playing games are some of the most, beloved or favorite role-playing games ever for a lot of people. So I can totally respect that. I would maybe get rid of one of the Kirby games because we have 2 Kirby games. And I know it's a licensing nightmare, so that's why it's probably not in there. But I and many, many other people would love to have seen Turtles in Time, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4. Turtles in Time, in my opinion, the best 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up ever made. The Super Nintendo port, I mean, I played it in the arcade, and it was fun. I loved it. But then I played the Super Nintendo version, and it was amazing. It's so much fun. Okay, we're getting a little final. I was waiting for another splash screen demo. But you get to see. I mean, unfortunately, I can't really play any of the games right now because I don't have a tripod, and it would probably look like crap anyway. But I'm holding this with I'm doing this with my phone. I don't have direct feed capability for consoles. So, nevertheless, you've got the original aspect ratio. You can actually switch, you can add a filter to make it look more like a CRT. You can stretch the image, but I've been playing everything in basically their native 4:3 square format. So, anyway, that is kind of a look, just a quick look at the Super Nintendo Classic or SNES Mini. People call it kind of interchangeably. But it is, I mean, it's a hell of a console. If you're a fan of the Super Nintendo, if you're a fan of classic video games, just even as a collector, it's kind of worth it in that sense. But if you grew up with these games like I did, I mean, there's so many. There's something for everybody. You have your beefy RPGs. You have you have Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, you have platformers, you have Punch-Out, you've got a boxing game, you've got F-Zero and Mario Kart, classic single and multiplayer racing, you've got Star Fox, a flying game, a Donkey Kong Country, Contra, an action game, Zelda, Link to the Past, Super Metroid. I mean, it goes, like, again, there are, of course, titles that everyone wishes were in there, just because, everyone has their own favorites that might not be there. But honestly, the amount of game that you get in this little thing for $80, and just being able to have something like this, not have to carry around cartridges. You've got high quality controllers. You've got a high quality, nice little box here, and again, you've got this little 2-player port thing. You got a little cover that you can flip out that, when you don't have the controllers plugged in. And all it takes is one USB. It's a micro USB, and then one, an HDMI, and you can either plug it into the wall or you can plug it into your TV if you've got a USB port for your television, HDTV. So there's not really much else to say other than assuming you can actually get your hands on one of these little beasts, it is well worth doing so. There's a lot of classic gaming in here. We have the NES Classic, the SNES Classic, and if rumors are to be believed, and some patent filings and things, it sounds like there might be a Game Boy version next year. Or it could be, we probably have a couple more of these coming in the next few years. Nintendo has already said they're going to make, in 2018, they're going to re-release the NES Classic because they did such a poor job of making it available. So hopefully they'll pump out more units there. But I'm guessing we're going to get a Game Boy version. We're going to get a, probably an N64 version. And the Game Boy version would honestly be very cool, and I would love if it was a combo thing, like the Switch, where it would have its own screen, but then it would have an HDMI out, and you could plug it into your TV and play it like a Super Game Boy. Because remember, there was a cartridge for the Super Nintendo that had, it was called the Super Game Boy. You plug the baby in right up here, and then you put in your Game Boy game on top of that. And you could play your portable games in the Super Game Boy on your TV. So I would love a classic Game Boy, one of these that you could play on your TV or on the go, a la Switch. Because, other than the fact that I'm not exactly sure where it is at the moment, I still love... The original Game Boy Tetris is still just the purest form, and I've had so much fun playing that over the years. I still have it. I still love it. It's great. But we're not going to talk a lot about Game Boy stuff here. They still got the Final Fantasy spiel going on here with some classic music. But yeah, that is the Super Nintendo Mini, or the SNES Classic, if you will. Again, I wish Nintendo did a little better job of making it available. I still had to really, because they made it more available in brick and mortar stores, but I figured this time they made it a little bit harder for people like myself. When the thing came out, I was actually on the road a lot for work, and so I had to kind of rely on online more, and online really didn't do that good of a job. things just sold out in milliseconds, or they weren't available, or I was hoping that, they would give Amazon Prime members a deal, or a way to get it like they did last year, but they didn't. So, the release was a little rough, but it's, again, it's really good. You have, and I forgot to mention, you do have the save states, so you can have 3 save slots per game, and it does have a little rewind feature where you can rewind a little bit to a degree, which I have not actually used yet and played with, but it sounds pretty cool. What are the... Oh, okay, so it's switching. Okay, it's showing you the different mode there. So that wasn't even me. That was... Okay, what are they going to show us here? Oh, Kirby! I think this is the... It's a golf game, I think. Yeah. Oh, Kirby Superstar. Okay. Okay, yeah. So again, I apologize for the guerrilla recording style for the footage here, but there you go. You got your nice little 2D background, or your 2D side-scroller there. Kirby games are actually pretty fun. But that is the SNES Mini. If you can get your hands on one, I would highly recommend it. I know a lot of people say, well, just get a Raspberry Pi and put all the ROMs on there. Yeah, you can. But it's honestly, it's nice having the official thing. Especially if you're a collector and you want to have like official hardware and everything. And the price isn't bad. For what you get the 2 controllers, 21 games, you get a never released game, and you get, literally hundreds of hours of gameplay here. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. And until next time, I will talk to you guys again later. Stop recording video.